So I've told many times to many people, on many occasions, that my forgetter works a little better every day, and it does. And some of my stories I won't remember every day, but then sometimes they'll pop up and they'll be worth talking about. And so I like to have the opportunity here to talk about those memories so that maybe somebody in my family one day will want to reminisce about my craziness. Because most of my stories are cautionary tales, especially in my youth. Now that I'm gotten older, it's not that I've gotten any smarter, I've just gotten lazier. I just don't want to work that hard. And usually, cautionary stories either come from working too hard or getting out of work as hard as you can. So, this story was when I made a big old mistake. Now, I want this to be a cautionary tale because there's some things in here that if a youngin watched, which I don't, our analytics don't have youngins watching, but if a youngin was to watch, they might say, "Oh, that sounds cool." It's not. This deals with skipping school. Kids stay in school, get an education. Not only you're never going to probably use some of the stuff that you learn, but you're going to use the lessons that school teaches you that you don't pay attention to, like having to be somewhere on time on a regular scheduled basis, having to pay attention to things that you don't want to pay attention to, having to follow rules that you really don't understand, you don't care for, but those are the rules and those are the things you ought to do. Striving to do better, finding things that you love to do that you didn't expect to, being exposed to neat and awesome things. School's cool. Stay in school, right? School's not the only trainer. It's not the only education you get. You don't have to go to college if you don't want to. You want to be vocational, be vocational. You don't want to do that, you want to do something else, do something else. But at least have that skill set of being able to be somewhere on time and being able to do a task that you might not want to do. It's important. This also talks about underage drinking. So not good. So not good. Over drinking, no matter what age, is always bad. Drinking in moderation, consenting adults, all right, that's fine. But don't think that this be something that you say, well, you know what, Bob Cigar Guy did it, I think I should do it too. Don't do it. Don't do it. But it does lead to interesting stories. So this was a day when I was in high school, probably 9th, 10th grade. My friend James and I, we were thicker than thieves, running around all the time, causing trouble. Skipping school. Boy, did I skip some school. I skipped a ton of school, and I was looking for trouble. And people that look for trouble, beware of people like me. People that are looking for trouble are trying to find ways to get you in trouble too, so that they don't feel like they're in trouble, number one, that misery loves company, number two, but also that you are disposable, that, you can blame them. Be careful of those people. But out by our school, Eastside High School, there used to be a big old set of woods. And it was right off campus, so you could just walk from school buses right off into the woods, right? Which I did. And it was wintertime. It was a little cooler out there, and there are houses backed up to the edge of the woods, and one of the houses happened to be a family friend. And they had a junkyard, awesome big old junkyard, and they had a horse, and their son, who was probably 30-something years old, worked at a brewery, a major brewery distributorship. And when we had went out there to see those people and hang out as family, they walked us around, and I happened to spy into one of their open sheds where their horse and their junkyard was cases and cases and cases of beer. And I said, "What's all that beer in there for?" He goes, "Oh, he brings that back. It's beer that's either the cans are dented or they didn't get filled all the way or there's some problem, and he collects up till he fills this shed all the way full, and then he busts all the beer cans and he turns them in for aluminum." I said, "That's cool, but in my mind, I was not thinking about the collecting of cans. I was thinking about this treasure trove of beer right backed up against the woods to where I skipped school. Now, some of this beer was probably years old, was not air conditioned, was not climate controlled, was defective for whatever reason. And so me thinks that's a good idea. So that morning that I knew I was going to skip school, I told my friend we were going to get a bunch of beer and we were going to go out in the woods and get drunk. Never a good idea. Kids don't do that. I carried in my backpack, I dumped all my books out. I wasn't going to use them anyway. And I filled it with a big duffel bag, good sized duffel bag. I think it was a London Fog duffel bag. Nice, right? So, skipped school, took off in the woods, met my friend James. We go walking off to the beer stash, fill up our duffel bag with beer. We go back to the woods and we dig a small hole. We put the bag in the woods in the hole. Then we cover it with pine straw. This is back in Florida, so there's pine straw everywhere. Covered it with pine straw. Then we proceeded to go back to campus and find ourselves some friends that would come out and enjoy libations with us. Didn't want friends. They weren't friends. I wasn't being a friend. I just want somebody else out there so that, I want to get somebody slower than me, so that if the truant officers or people from the high school came out and found us, I could outrun them and they could get caught. Being honest. Be aware of those people. They're bad people. Ones that are wanting you to go do things you shouldn't do. So, we got some very willing participants. We went out there and proceeded to drink lots and lots of beer. Nasty, hot, stale, bad beer. And we did that from, we probably started 9 o'clock in the morning drinking. School let out at 2:30. School bus was right there off the woods. And I was pretty toasted up. And I walked straight out of the woods, found my bus, got on my bus, went and sat in the back row, and just proceeded to just be miserable. Miserable. My sister, was she in high school at that time? Yes. So this is my junior year. She was in high school at the time, and so we were riding back. School bus dropped us off. We had to walk the rest of the way home. We walked the rest of the way home, and she's like, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "No, I don't just feel good." She says, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "No, I don't feel good. Leave me alone." My little sister. She said, "What's the matter?" I said, "You better shut up or I'm going to throw a rock at you," which I would. Don't trust people like me. They'll throw rocks at you. And so we got into the house, and my mama, love my mama. She was in nursing school. Now, she was rough when she was a kid. She was. Growing up north, running with the wrong crowd, doing all sorts of bad things. Got her life together. And so I wanted to be like mama and do the bad things. She was in the middle of nursing school. And so all of her nursing friends came over. About half a dozen of them came over. And they were rough around the edges too. They were there studying. And so I walked in the house. I said, "Hey, mama." She goes, "Hey." And I gave her a quick little half hug, right? I knew I smelled like alcohol. I didn't want her to smell me. And I walked past them, and I was going down the hallway to the bedroom. Well, this part of the story I heard later. One of the ladies who had a checkered past looked at my mom and said, "You know that boy's drunk, right?" Mom said, "No, he's not drunk. I was her baby boy. I wouldn't do nothing like that." She goes, "Yeah, he's drunk." And the other ladies were kind of like, And so a couple minutes later, while I'm laid on the bed just trying to stop the room from spinning, she comes in, she looks at me, she says, "You're drunk." And I said, "No, Mama, I'm not drunk," slurring all everything. She goes, "You're drunk." And I said, she goes, "Tell me a story." And I told her what happened. She was hotter than hot. And she goes, "I'm not going to beat you right now because I'm so mad I'd hurt you." Now, you ever had your mama tell you that? You know it's a scary moment. And she says, "But you know what? You ain't sleeping this off. You going to learn." So it's Florida. It's Florida. Even wintertime is hot. She had me go outside and start pulling weeds on the edges of our bushes. And I'm out there pulling weeds, and she kept coming out. She goes, "You better keep pulling them weeds." And I'm hanging. I'm just leaning on the ground, trying to hang on to anything so I don't get flipped over because I was a mess. I'm pulling weeds, mattered and sin. Mama comes out about an hour after that, and she goes, "I've got to go. I've got class. But you're not going to stop. I put your sister in charge of you." The girl that I said I was going to throw rocks to, the girl that I had tormented all her life, I love her. Don't trust people like me. And so she goes, "I'm putting your sister in charge of you." And half of me was like, it's my little sister. Then the other half is, I'll beat her up. She'll leave me alone. Don't trust people like that. So Mama leaves. I heard the car crank up and leave. It was a big old car, so you could hear it when it pulled off. And I just proceeded to lay down in that grass. That grass was St. Augustine grass. Nice and thick grass. It was comfortable. At that time, rocks would have been comfortable. So I proceeded to lay down. And then all of a sudden, a strip about that wide and about 6-7 inches long caught on fire on my back. That little, that little baby fat on the side had a lot of it. But on that tender meat right there, wow, it burned. And a couple seconds later, wow, it burned. Then all of a sudden, in rapid fire, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, where are these? Is there a meteor shower coming? Am I getting burned up? Is God throwing brimstone at me for what I've done? I didn't know. As I turned around and looked, there's my sister with a switch, smiling, standing over me. She said, "You better get up. Mama said you keep pulling them weeds." And I said, "Girl, you better leave me alone." Wow, she whooped me again, boy. She tore my tail up. I tried to crawl to get to her, but she was giggling and laughing because I could barely move and I couldn't keep up. And she just was tearing me up. And so she made me pull them weeds till Mama came home, and that was hours later. I had pulled all the weeds around them bushes, and we had way too many bushes. Later in the years, I kept trying to cut them bushes down or mess them up so that we wouldn't have them bushes. So if I ever did anything stupid like that, you're going to have less bushes to deal with. It's true. But the one thing my mama said when she said she had to leave froze my soul. She goes, "You wait till your dad comes home." And if you're any generation like me, you know Dad did not want to do the discipline in the house. He's been working all day, putting up with all that crap all day long. Want to come home and just rest, and now he's got to come home. He's got to deal with some kid who causes problems all the time, which I did. I cause problems all the time. And when you deal with a kid like that, you're going to put a little extra emphasis in there so that that child will choose not to make those stupid mistakes anymore. So Mama came home on 5 o'clock, I guess. I think she felt sorry for me, and she let me in the house and drank some water. She goes, "Now you go outside and you wait on your dad." And I went out and I sat on the edge where he parked the car. I'm sitting there dreading it. A little while later, he comes pulling up. He pulls up, and where he parks is right next to me, and he gets out of the car and he looks at me and he goes, "Hello, son." I said, "Hey, Dad." He goes, "What you doing out here?" I ain't going to tell him I'm waiting to get my whooping. I told him, I said, "I'm just sitting out here." He goes, "Okay." I heard the screen door open as he walked in. Then I waited. About 45 seconds to a minute, which is probably 5 minutes, but it seemed like time was going by fast. That screen door swung open again, and I knew. My comeuppance was about to come up. So, let me take a pause here and tell you. The words come out of my mouth don't taste good, but when you add this Sober Mesa Brulee, burning fantastically, might I add, it makes those words taste just a little bit better. Anyway. He comes out and he goes, son, come on in the house. I went in the house. He goes, go ahead on to your room. I'll be in there in a minute. That hallway was never as long as it was that time when I was walking. I could hear dead man walking a line. I went in there and I shut my door and I sat on my bed. Thought about putting books in my pants, but that didn't work last time. Thought about the excuses I was going to say. That didn't work. Thought about packing something up and jumping out my window and running away because I knew this was going to be bad. The door opens up. He comes in. I'm sitting on the bed. You don't lay on the bed. You sit on the bed. You draw it out, right? Then he's going to say, roll over. He's going to say that dumb thing, it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. It's true, but it don't sound good to a kid. Ask my kids. He came and he sat down next to me. And it was one of the worst beatings I ever got because I didn't get a beating. He looked at me and he goes, your mama done punished you. I'm not going to punish you. And so inside I'm like, whew, man, I got away with that. And he said, but I got to tell you, I love you. But it's disappointing that you don't love yourself. It's disappointing that you keep doing things that you don't need to be doing, and the consequences are getting worse and worse and worse. And there's going to be a day where I can't just spank you or punish you or ground you or whatever. You're going to end up going to jail. You're going to be going to prison, or you're going to end up in a position where you're going to be dead. And that's the road you're heading down. And I just don't know what to do. I'm letting you down as a dad. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in me. I love you. You're not grounded. Come on out and have dinner. Boy, howdy, I wish I would have got beat that day. I'm glad I didn't, though, because it was that and a couple other opportunities in my life where my mom had showed me grace and mercy and love when I didn't deserve it. And it made me change the way that I am. It made me change the fact that I was trying to take from everybody and I was trying to do everything I wasn't supposed to do. And I had to really evaluate why I did what I did. So, I believe it when it was said, and I believe it today, that experience is the best teacher. It is. But I also believe that it doesn't have to be your personal experience. So, live through mine, so you don't have to live through yours. That's it. You're valuable. You're awesome. You make a difference in this world. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for listening. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Later, Tater. Don't skip school. Don't get drunk. Don't drink underage. Don't smoke cigars underage either. Wait till you're ready. That's what I say. Later.